Good afternoon. Welcome to the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Consortium Board meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 25th, and we are at the Job Center in Summit County. Welcome to any elected officials. Are there any elected officials? We will go around the room and introduce the consortium members. I'm very excited that we have a large crowd today. It looks like we have excellent attendance from our board members as well. I'm sorry?
Use the microphone.
Okay. Just saying that. Does that work? Yeah, okay. I guess I'll have to put it right up to my mouth. I was just saying that I'm very excited. It looks that we have very good attendance by our board members as well as a number of folks in the audience. It's very exciting. It's a big day for us, so thank you for attending. I'd like to introduce or have the consortium members introduce themselves. I am Grace Gallucci. I am chair of the Northeast Ohio Sustainable Communities Consortium as well as executive director for NEOSCC.
And I am Hunter Morrison, the executive director of the NEOSCC.
Mike Nichols, NEOSCC.
Lindy Bird on behalf of Cuyahoga County.
Stuart Mendel from Cleveland State University.
Janice Schweitzer from Ashtabula County.
Jeff Dutton representing the Stark County Area Transportation Study.
Mary Beth Teague with the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority.
Jason Segedy, I'm the director of AMAT, which is Greater Akron's Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Freddie Collier, City of Cleveland, City Planning Commission.
Greg Brown, Executive Director, Policy Bridge.
Bill Davignon, City of Youngstown.
Anthony Kovac, Trumbull County.
Larry Davis, Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority.
Mark Moore, City of Akron.
Angie Byington, City of Elyria.
Patty Stevens, Cleveland Metro Parks.
Connie Krause, Summit County.
David Beach, Cleveland Museums of Natural History.
Nancy Cook, City of Akron, alternate.
Donna Skoda, Summit County Public Health alternate.
Gene Nixon, Summit County Public Health.
Ron Shortis, Youngstown State University.
John Getchy, State Regional Counsel for Ashtabula, Mahoney, and Trumbull counties.
I'm Rachel McCartney, and I am representing Catholic Charities Diocese of Youngstown.
Joe Hadley with NEPCO.
Anna DeSantis from Orange County.
Mike Lyons, Regional Prosperity Initiative.
Steve Hambley, Medina County Commissioner and alternate for NEOSCC.
Bob Now, Vice Chair, Stark County Regional Planning.
Andrew Harris.
Mike Challenger.
Mike Challenger, Lorraine County.
Welcome. Also, we have Ralph Sinistra. I'd like to introduce him. He is the Job Center Manager and is our host today.
I'm right here.
There you go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Job Center. I think we've kind of underestimated how many people would show up, but hopefully everybody's comfortable. Please let us know if we can make you more comfortable here. I'd just like to do a little quick commercial for the Job Center. We're the public workforce system here in Summit County. Under the direction of Summit County Executive Russ Pry. We'll leave some of our brochures out by the door. If you live in Summit County, how many have been here before? Good. That's always good to see. But if you haven't been here before and you haven't used this resource, our main goal is to match job seekers with employers. That's what we try to do here. So if you know somebody who could benefit from that, all of our services are free. And as you can tell when you're coming in here today, it was a very busy place. So welcome, and I'll put some information about the Job Center back here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another board member sitting at the table now. Brad, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Brad Wayne with the Fund for Our Economic Future.
Thank you very much. We just had introductions. Next on the agenda is public comment. We are going to have 5 folks speak who have signed up for it. The first member who has signed up is Peggy Reed. If you'd like a microphone, you can use mine.
Come to those.
There's a microphone there. Also, per our regulations, we limit public comments to 3 minutes per person. This is for you. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. For brevity's sake, I'm going to read my prepared statement here. My name is Peggy Reed. I'm the founder of a Southern Summit County organization called the Arlington Neighborhood Association. I started that neighborhood association in 2006, actually. We started formally meeting in 2007, but we're all about working together as a community. We're all about dealing with local problems, with transportation, with policy, with land use. We have meetings regularly. We've been meeting for a little over 6 years now. So I've been watching the progress here with NEOSCC. I'm also representing a group called Ohio Citizens for Property Rights. Ohio CPR is a grassroots organization consisting of property owners and residents from around the state. We have been working together to identify policies and practices, rules, regulations, and other actions that could be detrimental to property ownership. Any issues that could potentially erode private property and prevent economic development are on our radar. The reasons for the opposition to Vibrant NEO 2040 by our organization. The data collection process during scenario planning and visioning sessions. Members of our organization have attended the visioning sessions and scenario planning in the 12 Northeast Ohio counties. The information presented at these events has questionable theory and implementation ability. For example, and as I refer to these documents, they're in the folder I provided Mrs. Gallucci. The outward migration in the 4 scenarios and the Outer Ring Suburbs Board that were presented at the Akron Urban League Open House in August 2013. Here are some actions taken by myself and other team members. As a result of these visioning sessions and questionable data collection techniques, an online petition was generated last summer. It contains over 1,200 signatures. This petition specifically requests that NEOSCC cease and desist all regionalism planning, citing severe consequences in regard to private property ownership, loss of local control, and financial hardship created through furtherance of grant funding by government entities. The use of taxpayer grant funds for these projects will increase our national debt. There's a new petition that started yesterday. Less than 24 hours, we've got over 250 signatures on it already. The petition reflects the signers' concerns that an ultimate goal of NEOSCC is to create a regional appointed government. Our goal is to see the activities of NEOSCC terminated and to leave the planning of communities to the elected officials put in office to do that job by the citizens of their respective communities. 2 forums were held, one in Independence and another at the Tri-C campus, where Hunter Morrison and Grace Gallucci were questioned on the activities of NEOSCC. Several hundred people attended those 2 forums. The overwhelming majority of those present, which included elected township officials, state reps, judges, citizen groups, and leaders and residents of the area to be affected, have no desire for their local communities to continue in a relationship with NEOSCC. They do not feel there has been adequate citizen input that reflects the opinions of the region to be affected. Okay. In closing, we will continue to engage our local elected officials and work to ensure that they are informed of your agenda, its potential for loss of local control and private property right concerns. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have in relation to our opposition. Details and examples of our objections to the data collected mentioned above are in the report that I submitted. I submit this statement of opposition on behalf of myself and the Ohio Citizens for Property Rights on this day, Tuesday, February 25th, 2014.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Patty Gascoigne-Teleshak.
you. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. I'm Patty Gascoigne Teleshak, here as a citizen. I live in Cuyahoga County. I have a problem with the process. It's not the best. Zoning decisions, which is what this is, controlling land is a zoning decision. Zoning decisions, no matter how well-meaning, should always be made and debated by those who will be directly affected by them and by their elected representatives. Local decision-making ensures that they are acceptable, affordable, and the most beneficial to that community. Soft law recommendations potentially emanating from this body are so far removed from those who will be directly affected by them. It is very likely that your decisions are not acceptable, not affordable, not the most beneficial for property owners, businesses, and residents, all those with a permanent interest in their community. All those with a permanent interest in their community are bypassed by this body, and this is my problem with the process. Thank you.
David Frost, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Do my minutes start when I started walking, or did they start now?
3, 2, 1.
My comments are going to be a little bit different.
Louder.
How's that? I have to swallow this microphone. Okay, I'm going to end up with just a couple of comments about a few things where your approaches are going, and I'm going to throw out a couple of challenges to the board. The subjects I'm going to cover are public participation, the concept of preserving open space, protecting private property, and then a few comments about the board. First of all, public participation. In the recent issue of the Post newspaper in our area, the comment was made that there had been about 5,600 people who took part in your forums, myself among them. I'm not sure whether that's an accurate number, but considering that there are 2 million people in the 12 counties involved, that represents less than 1%. My concern is that less than 1% are influencing what the board has decided and the way they structured the results of the forums to have an inordinate amount of influence on the other 99% that live out there. I know that you'll say that it's voluntary, but I think there's a subtle difference. It's probably voluntary incentive-based. That means follow the money. That means people show up with bags of grants and subsidies. Okay, preserving open space, a big deal with the group. I keep getting this hand signal back there. Okay, I'll get closer. Okay, the lower 48 states have 1.8 billion acres. These are government stats, by the way. Developed land is 66 million acres. That's 3.5%. Sprawl, subdivisions, farmhouses are 73 million acres. That's 3.8%. That leaves about 94% that is technically open space by definition of the federal government. And my favorite subject is protecting private property. The NEOSCC documents are terribly weak in terms of expressing a concern about protecting private property. There is one spot that says, it's NEOSCC goal number 3, respecting local government and individual rights is about the only mention. I did a word search on NEOSCC development strategies, 25 pages, 0 mention of private property. A word search on development, on private regional vision, 131 pages, no mention of private property. There is a clue, though, in your environmental work stream. It says includes tasks such as reducing availability of undeveloped land. And I'm wondering who owns that land. Okay, our challenge to the board is, what more stuff do you want me to?
Well, you've got 3 minutes, your 3 minutes are up, so if you could just cut it out.
Okay, all right. The challenge to the board is put stronger language in your policies about protecting private property. It's important to all of us. The last thing is, oh boy, 30% of the people that attended your forums were in opposition. That's from your website. My challenge, the other challenge to the board is, I think you ought to have an ombudsman on this board that speaks for that 30%. I've been to maybe a half a dozen of your meetings. I've never heard anyone actively promoting the other side, that 30%. That's my 2 challenges to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jerry Eagle.
Good afternoon. I'm Jerry. I'm from my lovely wife, Beth, and it's the first time I've been to one of these meetings. I'm just off the cuff citizen living here in Akron. I know a lot of you are all elected or government officials, and as a retired veteran of the U.S. Air Force for 21 years serving in Desert Storm, I'm disappointed that we don't have a U.S. flag. So let's all, recage ourselves and understand that we are Americans first. I do believe in pursuit of happiness, in liberty, and I do believe in personal property rights. What I see going on with our governments is a change, this fundamental change that everybody keeps talking about, of taking that away. Taking our private property rights away, whether it's physical land or what's in your pocketbook. It's always being taken away. And we need to kind of focus as to what we're doing here. Northeast Ohio is in an economic depression. Let's be real. Our energy should be focused on not so much zoning and building railroads and putting sidewalks for bicycle paths and all this stuff, and going into people's homes to make sure that they have the right insulation in their attic, but to bring in industry, bring in the economic engine to bring back Northeast Ohio. Yeah. Like it used to be. This place was thriving in the 40s, in the 50s. We need to bring that back. We need to bring incentivized policies to bring that back. We build all this stuff up, high density areas, pockets of, housing, affordable housing. Hey, that all sounds great, but where are they going to work?
Yeah,
where are they going to work?
That's right.
Okay? So those who do work will be taxed to provide and feed these projects. And people are going to say, look, I need to go somewhere else. So we really need to focus on what we're trying to do in the big picture here. Stop taking away private property.
Yes.
Stop taking, build up our infrastructure to support the economic engine and bring back Northeast Ohio to an economically thriving community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our last person to sign in for public comment is Skip Claypool.
As was said, my name is Skip Claypool. I'm a former Jug County Commissioner, current NEOSCC alternate board member, and a citizen of Jug County. I've got significant concerns over this quote-unquote regional plan. Jug County has opted out of that plan. There is no note of that. There's no disclaimer that Jug County is not part of this plan. We've not had any workshops in Jug County, and outside of the interest that some of us have taken to find out what NEOSCC is all about, where it was going, Jug County has not been a part of this. And so this is not a regional plan. This is a Cuyahoga County plan. This is a plan driven by, as was said earlier, a population of people, if you look at the underlying data, that does not represent the region. It's got this particular plan, which you're going to be considering today, has faulty data, faulty process, and faulty method. There has been none, zero, nada, nothing, no opportunity for the citizens to challenge this data and the process and the methodology. And yet, we're contemplating spending millions of dollars to push this plan forward without any opportunity for challenge. We had over 1,000 people sign a petition. Over 400 people went to 2 forums. We had 250 people sign as of yesterday. We're up less than 24 hours on a petition. And those people who are signing and who have attended those forums are sending a message to every one of you at this board. They're your constituents. They're your voters. They want to be heard. All they're asking for is a reasonable conversation about what is in this plan. There's been no opportunity. For those of us who have actually spoken up and pushed back on the system, we've had the police called on us in meetings. There have been no opportunity to push back on what we see in this plan. So I ask you, and by the way, I have a copy of the NEOSCC. I'm on the NEOSCC board policies. In the NEOSCC policies, there are comments about accepting the NEOSCC proposals, lock, stock, and barrel, without the opportunity for vetting the state of the process and the underlying mechanism. I implore you, board members, allow the citizens of our region, if you're going to call this a regional plan, allow the citizens of this region to look inside of the guts of this and to evaluate the goodness of it. I do not want HUD driving our region. This is a HUD grant. Department of Transportation, HUD, determining the direction for a sovereign state and sovereign counties. And so I'm going to ask you, board, allow a little bit of vetting of this data and this regional plan before you accept any of it. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all of you who attend the meeting, who've come to attend the meeting, and particularly those who have presented their viewpoints. At this point, we will move towards the action items. The first item for action is the approval of the meeting minutes of December 17th, 2013. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Segedy and seconded by Mr. Getchie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Second item is the election of the 2014 NEOSCC Officers and Executive Committee. Jeff Dutton chaired the nominating committee, and I will rely upon him to give a report of the nominations.
Okay, Madam Chair, the nominating committee met a few weeks back. The nominating committee met to discuss the nominations of 2014 officers and executive committee, to discuss the slate of officers and the executive committee, and based upon that discussion, at the time, because of the extension of the HUD grant spanning into the first quarter and the second quarter of 2014, the proposal at the time was for the existing current slate of officers and executive committee to continue through the June of 2014, provide continuity in the process and providing time to put together whatever plan for going forward with NEOSCC 2.0. And the idea would be to reconvene back in May to propose a slate of officers beginning on July 1, 2014. And that was our recommendation. And in June of 2014, that's when the nomination will be presented to the board for action at that point. So that's what the nominating committee is suggesting. And based upon that, the executive committee or the nominating committee would like to recommend the executive committee that would continue in their current positions through June 2014, and the officers would remain the same again through June of 2014. Those being Grace Galucci, chair of NOACA, from NOACA. First vice chair was Bob Now from SCATS. Second vice chair would be recommendation of AMET's member Jason Segedy. Third vice chair would be Eastgate alternate Rachel McCartney. And the treasurer would be NOACA alternate Steve Hamley, and with the secretary being Fred Wright, and that was the recommendation. And I believe that's the nominating committee presented that to the executive committee, and that was it. I think we did.
Second page.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. There it is. And then the executive committee would consist of AMS Director Jason Segedy, Eastgate Director John Getchie, NOACA Director Grace Galucci, SCATS Director Bob Now, NEFCO Director Joe Hadley, Fund for Economic Future Director Brad Whitehead, RPI Director Mike Lyons, AMATS Region at Large Member Gene Nixon, Eastgate Region at Large Member Bill Davignon, NOACA Region at Large Freddie Collier, and SCATS Region at Large Jeff Dunn.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'd like a comment for the third vice chair, Eastgate alternate Rachel McCartney. Rachel will be leaving the employment of Eastgate in another week, and with a better opportunity with my gentleman here to my right, why shoes I'm not talking to. No, it's good. So the status of Rachel on the board would be a question in an officer position or a board member position at this point.
I think it was the intent of the nominating committee, but Jeff, you can verify that more likely than not, it still would be an Eastgate representative that we would want in that position.
I believe that's correct. Yes, that's what the nominating committee recommended.
Yes. So at this point, we would move to approve with Rachel McCartney's name in there as a placeholder for whomever Eastgate chooses to either replace her or John Getchie can fill the position. So if you can fill the position, I suppose we can actually ask for an amendment to the document, and so therefore the motion would include adopting with Rachel McCartney's name being removed and replaced by John Getchie. So do I have a motion to approve? Mike Challenger, seconded by Gene Nixon. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you very much to Jeff and the nominating committee for the work that they put in developing that slate of candidates. Thank you. Our next item is the resolution regarding the endorsement of the Vibrant NEO 2040 Vision Framework and Action Products. This is the big resolution we have been waiting 3 years to put in front of you. First, let me note that one of our members, Joe Hadley, where are you, Joe, who has eagle eyes, thank you, noted that there was an omission, accidental omission, inadvertent, in section 2 of the resolution that was distributed in the package. The corrected version was distributed at the sign-in desk out front, and therefore we will be voting on the corrected version. And again, thank you, Joe, for pointing that out to us. Also, we've been informed by several member organizations that they have already passed formal resolutions endorsing the Vibrant NEO framework. These include the Center for Community Solutions, Eastgate Council of Government, Lorain County, Mahoning County, NEFCO, RPI, and the City of Youngstown, while others have it slated on the upcoming agendas, and others will do so after today's adoption. So with that, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Brad Whitehead. Do I have a second?
Second.
I had a Joe Hadley second.
Is it secretary?
I don't know. They were in harmony. So if we can have 2 seconds, I suppose it's Jason Segedy and Joe Hadley.
It'll show, so reflect.
It shall so reflect. Thank you. Any discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
On the first page, there, whereases has a X figure for the leverage match, and I wondered if something from further in the board packet was over $2 million.
Yes. I apologize. We were going to correct that against the findings of the up-to-date leverage match, but it is over $2 million.
So we must, in terms of the adoption, we would be adopting with that corrected number, the final number put into that document.
As of the date of this meeting.
As of the date of this meeting, which is over 2 million, but we don't have the exact number yet. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to make, a couple comments if I could. Yes, thank you. I just want to make a couple comments, being as I guess I was the first former chairman of this organization when I was president of NOACA. And certainly the comments made today understand the frustrations people have with understanding that certainly in working with a process that involves a lot of complex components. I know there's great concern that this is a UN Agenda 21 feature. This is all top-down, but I think the evidence shows we've made our best attempt to make this sure that it was bottom-up. It wasn't perfect. We've done our best, however, to make it transparent and inclusive. The methodology involved thousands of people using various means of input, different forms of information. There is certainly the empirical-based information, and you can argue about that back and forth, but there was the best attempts to make sure that was up to date and as objective as possible. Then we have the normative-based information as part of our overall analysis. What people prefer, what we want this region to look like, what we want our communities to look like. The objectives, I think that when we look at the ones that are identified here, I find very frequently, sometimes maybe not word for word, certainly many of these objectives are included in our comprehensive plans of our communities. I just even within my own county, you can look at where there's concern for soil and air and ecologically sensitive areas, where there's concern for regional, actually for fiscal health, maybe not expression of the regional, but certainly the community, developing of our economy and employment opportunities. All that's in our county plans and in our community plans at various organizations. Looking at our local assets and placing great value on it, expanding our parks and open space network. We're replete with examples, community to community, locality to locality, county to county. We've got many of these objectives, and that's why they're all common. This is a common vision. This is what's coming from the bottom up. This has not been imposed by HUD. This is the one that is empirical-based and normative-based. Objectives have come from many, and it's evidence in our community development plans. And I just ask you, for those that have those concerns, take a look. Our objectives not counter to the elected form of government. In fact, if anything, they complement, they depend upon the elected form of government. The protection of property rights and promotion of the promotion of the common welfare that's in our very Constitution of the state of Ohio. Article 1, Section 19, private property shall ever be inviolate but subservient to the public welfare. That still remains, even with the passage and the approval of this, and even with other organizations. We're still under those constitutional provisions. We're under still the laws of the state of Ohio. The process of decision-making for public welfare remains local, it remains legal, and it remains deliberate. This is just an input in that process, one hopefully that enlightens officials such as myself and others to pay attention to the costs that are going of development. Particularly, before this study, our county, we did not know, or it certainly wasn't widely known, that for every 100 households we get about another mile of local road of local responsibility. So over a 30-year period, somebody's got to rebuild that road. And typically ends up being, well, local government is going to have to raise taxes. And I live in a community which is going back for the 4th time on the ballot to try to pay for local roads. So if we're not paying attention to that when we're building it, we're going to definitely have to pay attention to the next generation. And that's something, as a government official, I wholeheartedly think we need to all be looking at when we are making these decisions. We have to look at the long-term cost of government. Likewise, we have to look at the impact of our regional transportation decisions, our system of our networks, certainly when it comes to transportation. Our county itself has just benefited from regional cooperation through our transit system. Went from rural to urban. We lost funding for the rural area, and if it hadn't been for regional cooperation, we actually wouldn't be able to restore some of the service. ODOT came up with some additional money, 5307, but the RTA, we can't use it because they only use it for fixed routes, and we can't use it in the rural area. Well, guess what? Now, with RTA's agreement, they're going to take that money, use it for their local, they're going to use some of their local, give it to us, and now we'll be able to restore the service. The people like an 82-year-old lady who was on kidney dialysis in the early part of January, she had to go 3 days a week. We couldn't take her. We couldn't reliably take her to dialysis treatment in Medina. Those are the people we're trying to serve, and what I'm asking for is, this is part of the outcome of regional cooperation. These kind of initiatives highlights the need for us to work together to improve our services, make them much more efficient, and look for opportunities for not only effectiveness or economics, but it's not going to, we're not going to override public, we're not going to override certainly private property rights. That isn't the intent. It's meant to be an input into that. So we realize in the long term, we're all linked together. We all have a vested interest in the region, and we can make this a better region by keeping in mind many of the things that have been identified in this study. Thank
you. Thank you, Commissioner Hambley. I had a similar speech lined up, but I think yours was better, so we're just going to stay with that one. Actually, I do want to, before we take the vote, thank Commissioner Hambley as the first chair and Jason Secchi as the chair, the second chair in this process. And this has been a lot of work, and it took 3 years because we wanted to make sure it was a deliberative process that tried its best to be inclusive, collaborative, accurate, and looking at the best way to present the information in such a way that it can be used by the local communities to inform them, as Commissioner Hambley said, in their process. Before we take the vote, I want to clarify that the recommendations are just that. They are recommendations. We are a 501c3 organization. We're a nonprofit organization. We are not a government entity that has authority to implement these or to mandate them. We also recognize that these initiatives are not one size fits all for the 12-county region. We tried very hard to ensure that all aspects of the 12-county region were taken into consideration when developing the recommendations, looking at the diversity of the region relative to its population, relative to its assets, relative to its infrastructure, its industry, etc. We also understand that some of the initiatives will not be applicable at all to some parts of the 12-county region. And lastly, I want to emphasize, and we can't emphasize this enough, that the implementation of the individual initiatives will be a decision at the local level. The intent of the organization was to develop a regional vision and framework that was informed by a collaborative process and a public process, recognizing not everyone agreed with all aspects of the process. But the intent of developing recommendations is to improve the region, or as one of the speakers stated, to bring Northeast Ohio back to its glory days. And as part of that, we will be continuing as an organization to facilitate the implementation, looking at ways to ensure that the recommendations are clearly understood, that we have development standards in place, that we have targets that we can put in place, actionable products, and respecting that local level decision, and respecting that those decision makers at the local level who are the closest to the people, the closest to their constituents, will do what's best for them in their communities, but have the strength of the knowledge that informs them about how their actions may impact the entire 12-county region, as well as how the decisions of others in that 12-county region impact them. It's about understanding the interdependency between the local governments, between the various other agencies that are within that 12-county region, as well as its people. I think this organization and its board members have done a terrific job in leading the effort and leading it to a place that achieves an outcome that focuses on presenting objective data to decision makers to implement the decisions in a way that works for their communities as well as for the region. Any further comment?
Madam Chair. A very quick comment. As was mentioned, the board of the Center for Community Solutions, a nonprofit organization, did adopt the Vibrant Neo Regional Vision at a meeting earlier this month, but our board asked me to communicate to this body a suggestion that the future work of the Sustainable Communities Consortium include a greater emphasis on the role of health and social services in creating a vibrant Northeast Ohio, and I'm looking forward to the continued discussion of the future as we go forward once this plan is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no further discussion, I've lost it. Did we have a motion? We had Mr. Challenger. Oh, that's right, and then Jason and, okay. Okay, so then with no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There is one abstention.
Madam Chair, our intent at the Stats Policy Committee was to receive all the information at our January meeting with the vote at yesterday's meeting, which was in February. Unfortunately, old man winter got the best of us, and we weren't able to set up a meeting for the policy committee to be fully informed on the vision and the future until yesterday. And at which meeting afterwards, they did not vote. They voted actually to, they're going to take it up at the next meeting. I expect, in my opinion, a positive outcome, but I can't vote today because of that. So I'll be abstaining until the Stats Policy Committee weighs in on it.
Great. We respect very much your need to ensure that your organization is informed prior to your vote, so that's fine. So we have unanimous vote other than the abstention. Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations. This has been a culmination of a lot of effort and also funding from the federal government, the housing, urban development, as well as our fund, the Fund for Our Economic Future, and as well as in-kind services provided by most of you, all of you in this room. And with that, I would like our largest funder, Lucy Miller, to have the opportunity to address the organization on behalf of HUD.
Good afternoon. Congratulations to all of you. This has been a long process, a lot of work. I think the most important thing I can say is how important it is that we continue to collaborate and work together and take ownership and control at the local level to see that our sustainability of this region continues and that we bring the region back. We can't allow it to fail. There's just too much, there's too many assets, there's too much richness, and we need to continue to work together. But I think the point about local control is significant because we're certainly not trying to take away anyone's control. It's really that we all have to work together. We're all in this together. Thank you. Congratulations.
I also would like Brad Whitehead to have an opportunity to address the board again. Without the support of the Fund for Economic Future, we would not have been able to secure the grant.
Too bad.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I don't know that I have a lot to add other than I greatly appreciate the public comments that we had today. I think it's an important part of what we're all about here, and congratulations to all of you and all of us around the table. From the Fund for Economic Future's point of view, we did not come to this issue with anything other than a focus on the long-term economic competitiveness of our region. And it was through an engagement with over 20,000 citizens. It was through the involvement of a team of economists working with us a decade ago and others that led us to see that how we think together about infrastructure and how we think together about these issues of sustainability lies at the foundation of our ability to have a competitive economy that is able to support businesses and good paying jobs for our people. So that's what brought us to the table, and at least I am proud to see that our public officials and others in this room have come together to work on what matters most to our economy. So this is just but one step towards a healthy economy, and it comes down to now the decisions of hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals and organizations working at the local level, but hopefully we do so with a common goal and destination of where we're going. So we're pleased to see this, and thank you for the opportunity to weigh in.
And as your executive director, I'll take 1 minute to thank you for all the work you've done with us, and also call out the staff, several of whom are not here today because they have gone to other agencies. We have Anthony Kovac, however, has come back for a reprise representing the project management office that worked with you over the last 3 years. And this has been a most remarkable partnership across the region, and with a small but very dedicated staff. So as we move forward, I want to thank again the funders, HUD and the fund, for the leadership in keeping us moving forward. But to thank the board for sticking together. We've come a long way, Michael, since we met in your conference room 3 years ago to start on this journey. And I really do appreciate the hard work and dedication that everybody's put into getting us this far.
Thank you, Executive Director Morrison. on one last note, it really shows how much the people in this room and the organizations that you represent shows how much you care about the region and working through this process, considering the fact that this organization has no authority and cannot mandate. So we're working knowing that we're putting information together, working with a plan that we must allow at the local level folks to embrace it. And that says a lot for what we believe in. Next, we have some discussion items. And the first item for discussion is the conflict of interest statement. Emma, do you have some words you'd like to say about that?
I believe everybody here today signed it, but just as a reminder, if you have an alternate or if your representative has not yet done so, we need to have one from every member and alternate on the board for annual review for our files. All it is you have copies of the statement, we just need the signed portion. And if we do have copies today, if somebody didn't do it, we can flash today.
Thank you. Next item, the current budget and staffing situation. I will turn that over to the Executive Director.
Madam Chair, as we reported last month, we are in a wind-down mode with regard to our staffing. We will continue to stay as a staffed organization with essentially a skeleton staff until July 1st, the end of the extension period. I should note that a number of our staff members have moved to partner organizations. Anthony Kobach has moved to Trumbull County Planning. Joe McDonald, as you know, and Kelly Britt and Kelly Harris have moved to NOACA. Jeff Anderley is being engaged going forward by NOACA. And Emma Barcelona will be leaving to Eden Corporation, which is a nonprofit that is involved in housing development and is a significant partner with HUD. So all of our staff are staying essentially in the broader network, and we are engaged with the executive committee on what comes next. We're calling this period NEOSCC 1.5. And one of the things that I think, Lucy, you mentioned to me, that Steve Cerny mentioned to you, is one of the goals of 1.5, this period between now and July 1st, is to secure ownership and commitment to how the recommendations are going to be implemented, and we're going to be working with the executive committee to determine how best to do that. But you'll see in the document very close scrutiny given to who can and should take on ownership of various pieces of this vision. And I'd like to report that Mary Beth, that RTA, GCRTA, and the transit agencies are already taking up one of the initiatives with regard to collaboration across the region on joint scheduling, fares, websites, and the like. So we're already into implementation. So that's essentially where we are, with a strong emphasis that the executive committee is working through this, and Grace, I know you'll be reporting on that as well.
Thank you. So the next item is the executive committee update on NEOSCC 2.0. The executive committee continues to work towards a recommendation to the full board on the transition of NEOSCC to 2.0, meaning that we are moving from the development of the plan and framework to the implementation phase. We have asked that board members respond to a survey, and most of them did. I think we only have 2 or so outstanding. And I want to review a few of the major themes that came out of that survey. First is that there's a majority interest, 78% of the board respondents in membership in NEOS 2.0. So 78% of us want to stay on the board. I'm sorry, in membership. 68% is for the board. So 68% of the respondents are interested in being on the board for NEOS 2.0, while 78% want to have some membership in the organization in some fashion. There's also a majority interest, or 52%, among the responding board members to serve on a standing committee to collectively advocate for policy change. That was one of our highest scoring areas. And there's also a majority willingness, 68%, to provide in-kind services to support the future of NEOSC. So those are all good news items, and we will continue at the executive level to develop a proposal for you. I think our schedule is to bring it back to the board in March and have discussions because of course we're looking at implementing some version of 2.0 in July.
Just one point on that. We'll be sending out the survey results to you tonight. Now, several members have not yet responded, so hopefully they will. We'll continue to amend that, but I think you've got a broad perspective. We're also asking, the executive committee asked that we contact all the board members to give us the top 3 priorities for the 2.0. Part of what we're trying to do here is, where do you want to go next? We've laid out a wide range of initiatives and actions, but as you sit today and know what the opportunities and the challenges are, what are the top 3 things that would justify your continued involvement in the organization? If you could email those to Jeff and I post haste, that would be very helpful. So when we get back together with the executive committee, we're working in a direction that you are telling us you will support.
And for clarification, the top 3 priorities that you are asking for should relate to the recommendations in the plan.
Yes.
So we know where to start with in terms of the organization moving forward in 2.0.
Yeah. And the model I have is quite frankly what GCRTA was doing. I made the presentation to Mary Beth, I think back in December, and Joe had the resolution. He was asking for support of his board to collaborate with the other members. So it's very clear that that initiative is owned by the transit agency. What are the other ones that fit very clearly as areas that are of concern and interest to you? We will be distributing in just a minute the executive summary and the final report vision statement, so you'll have material to work with to go through. We turn to Jeff now.
Who's Jeff?
Jeffrey.
Jeff. So Jeff will give us an update on outreach and communications. And I think you have some gifts for us.
As you know, back in December, we talked about some of the different mediums that we were going to put out in order for you to communicate about this to your stakeholders, also to the general public. And so a lot of that has been underway as we're fine-tuning the final document. So what Hunter is passing out now is the 20-page executive summary, which I believe I emailed to all of you earlier this week or last week. And this executive summary goes into the objectives, the recommendations, some of the methodology, includes some of the maps, includes quotes from different elected officials throughout the 12 counties, and also touches a little bit on some of the initiatives without going through all 41. We're going to have more copies of that made. We only have 100 of them today. I think we're getting 2,500 made, so probably at the March board meeting, we'll pass out bigger stacks of them to you for your offices. other document that Hunter will be passing out is the vision chapter of the regional vision report. The vision chapter contains a little bit on the methodology, but then dives pretty deeply into the objectives and recommendations and initiatives, explaining why these things matter, who are potential leads in the community to take this work on, some case study examples both here locally and nationally, as well as the development strategies and the indicators that were decided on. That vision chapter is going to be a part of a much bigger book that will be published probably mid to late March. That will be kind of a formal report document. Hunter and I have been working literally around the clock with Chris Horn from Society to finish that document. So when it is done, we'll be distributing those as well. A couple other pieces that we're working on still is a simpler 11 by 17 handout for the general public that kind of walks through the objectives and some of the different research that we found. That will be published in the next couple weeks. And then finally, I wanted to, two other things. I wanted to thank Summit County, who has generously donated the printing of both the vision chapter that you see today and the final document. This was great that Connie, and particularly Aaron, who's been running interference with me with the Summit County print shop, to get these done today. So thank you, Aaron, for making this happen. Thank you. Well, lastly, we are producing a 5-minute video, thanks to the generosity of the Fund for Economic Future, that is going to kind of encapsulate the whole process and talk about the objectives and talk about how people can get involved. I saw a rough cut of it yesterday, and it's looking pretty great. So that should be published over the next couple of weeks as well, and that'll be available on our YouTube channel and our website, as well as downloadable for all of you in the coming weeks. Lastly, I think we did start kind of an online champions program or petition program. It's something we see as a long-term communications effort to gather support. In about 3.5 weeks, we've got over 800, well, close to 800 people to sign it. So that is going to keep going as well. Any questions? Jason?
I just wanted to take a second to thank the staff as well, and I think just looking through these documents, to be able to, both the people that are here today and the staff that have moved on to other organizations, to take all the time and synthesize, both the breadth of the thematic matter as well as across 12 counties and all the local governments that are involved. I think we've got a really great product to be able to point people in the direction of this is the vision, and that's what we're going to be working on in the future with local governments to try to make work for our region.
Lastly, at the March meeting, which Grace will talk about that we're going to have at NEOSCC's office, I'll walk you through how all of these things are available on the website so you can download the different component parts. A lot of it is up there already, but as we finish the report itself in the next 2 weeks, we'll be adding that to the website as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I would like to echo the comments of Jason Segedy in thanking the executive director and the staff, as well as the consultants for all of their work. I know the last couple of months especially have been very, very demanding, and it has not gone unnoticed, and your commitment is greatly appreciated. And you'll be rewarded when you start seeing the positive changes that this organization has launched. So next we have the information in your packets relative to the standing committees. There has been no business conducted since our last report, and relative to the organization, no update on the progress and status. The HUD grant extension, is there anything further that you'd like to speak to?
No, only I think that, again, Steve Cerny made it very clear to us when I was in D.C. and I think through Lucy, that the expectation over the next, in March, April, May, and June, is that we really focus together on what is the future of the organization and what are we going to do about the various initiatives and recommendations within this. And as Jeff said, we are going to be moving expeditiously towards that the March meeting. You'll find in the vision matrices where we've done our best to identify each of the 41 initiatives, what level of complexity it is, who could own it logically at the MPO, city, county, township levels, or the region as a whole. And so that's the template to begin deciding how best to do this. And again, whether it's across the 12 county regions, in the districts and the areas of our, what we're calling the 543, the 5 counties of the greater Cleveland, and Alaska, 4 counties are sort of shared by NEFCO and SCAS and PMAX, the 3 counties in this area, the extended family and communities of Northeast Ohio. And I know, Jeff, we were just talking as a result of yesterday's meeting about how SCATS might convene other actors to say that this is interesting, what's it really mean? And I think we had a very fruitful and detailed, frankly, discussion there. These are the sorts of discussions I would hope take place as we've made that first pass through all your organizations, and we've had discussions with mayors, with county executives, with the development cluster at the city of Cleveland about what does this mean, what are we going to do with it. I think that's really the next step. And this is where, again, we've got a framework, but as my colleague David Sweet, the former president of Youngstown State, said over and over when we were doing Youngstown 2010 and the campus plan, if you make the plan, then you got to work the plan. So we've got to move from making the plan, listening to folks, putting it in a logical order, and listening very carefully to those unique voices of Northeast Ohio to what are we going to do about it and who does it and how do we continue to engage and involve the citizens. And Jeff has mentioned the petition that's online. We'd encourage you to send out on your mailing list notification to go online and look at that, because part of the petition is to sort of, ideally you'd like to have 1,000 friends in Northeast Ohio, like 1,000 friends of Pennsylvania. But it's also an opportunity for you to point out to your friends and neighbors and colleagues, this is what we've been doing, take a look at it, and if you support it, vote for it. Say that. This is how it gets going. This is how you begin to change the needles. One of the things I would point out, and the Sasaki has made this, and our colleagues have made this point repeatedly, we have heard across the region, in all 12 counties, that people want to do things different. And Brad, this is no different, but in greater detail, than what we heard in Voices and Choices, where if you go back to we went back to the work that Carolyn Lukensmeyer did, and we all participated, and many people in this room participated in that. We involved 20,000 people in the most aggressive and most, I think, successful engagement process this region has ever known. And it clearly spoke to issues around outward expansion, inward abandonment, a love of our environment, the things that we then tested with a smaller and more focused process across the region. You can rely on the fact that the participation across the region of almost 6,000 people, as we've reported to your boards, is proportional to the percentage of the population. When we presented to Eastgate, Ashtabula, Trumbull, Mahoning County were all playing at or above their weight class. And people like Peggy Carlo and Tim Ryan did robocalls to make sure people were out there. Bob Triozzi, former law director of the city of Cleveland, whose offices now are right opposite the public library in Cleveland, didn't come to that session. He came out to Ashtabula because Peggy called. So I'm very comfortable that the range of involvement, engagement across the meetings in 12 counties, the level of consistency. People in Ashtabula County don't often talk to people in Lorain County, but they're saying the same things. People in Lorain County don't talk to people in Stark County, but they're saying the same things. So I think it's incumbent upon us to listen to folks and move in the direction of the needles that they're saying we need to move in. On the environment, on housing, on transportation, on fiscal soundness, and to continue to develop the tools that will enable us to move to change these needles. I will also say, Steve, that Hambley, that is that we've talked across partisan lines about the different perspectives on the future. Very strong emphasis among all parties about the role and importance of local government. Very important in that. But also, we're seeing that the fiscal analysis that is different in this process than anything I've been involved with, that allows us to test what the impacts are of different activities. That is drawing attention. Because what we also know as we go across the region is there's no more money in the cookie jar. And what's happened at the state level, what's happened at the federal level has put all of our entities at pressure, and people are listening to find ways to do things differently. And the constituencies are asking for us to do things differently. So I think it's incumbent upon us taking this, the test and push, and as Jeff and Bob know when we presented in Stark County, not every initiative is equally embraced, but some are. And so let's work with those things that we agree on. Let's identify those things and move to the early victories and continue to work through those things that may be more nuanced, a little harder to fit in or apply to one part of the region but not to others. But as I've visited and presented to county commissions, mayors, county execs, boards and commissions across the region, I think you see reflected today an appetite to do things differently, but an expectation that these are driven by metrics, driven by results, play out on the ground in ways that are sensible and can be explained to our constituents. That we are going to, as George Voinovich repeatedly said when I was with him in the city of Cleveland, you got to do the doable. We got a lot of doable things here, which we need to start doing. So that's where your staff is going, your executive committee is going, and this is an opportunity, I think, in the next several months to road test this in very real ways, and to come back to folks and say, we heard you, and we're doing it. And change is, in fact, possible, practical, and necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. The financial report as well as the contracts and leverage match report are in your documents. If there are any questions on those, we'll entertain them. Old business? Any new business? Just want to take this time to thank Emma Petrie Barcelona for all her work with NEOSCC. This is her last week. We wish her well in her new job, and I know we know that she will continue to carry the NEOSCC flag for us. The next meeting will be Tuesday, March 25th. It will be at the NOACA offices, which is 1299 Superior Avenue. And this will mark the second time in 3 years that the meeting will be held in Cuyahoga County. Only the second. So 2 out of 36.
It's a pretty good ratio, don't you think?
Yeah. So, but we are looking forward to hosting you. And if there's nothing else, I will look for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Challenger, seconded by Mr. Lyons. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.